remember that it was the Republican Party that said, the leader of the Republican Party, Mitch McConnell, that his number one objective from the very first day of the Obama term was to make sure that he was not reelected. Obama has been very forthcoming. Obama represents the future of inclusive politics in America. Just look at the man, Barack Hussein Obama. This is a historic election because he's appealed to a broad base of Americans to represent the future of America. So in that sense, I think the test will be whether the Republican Party, which is running out of steam, realizes that it has to readjust and become more of a partner with the majority.
Does that not depend on the outcome of what happens in Congress and also what happens in the Senate?
Absolutely. Now, the Republicans are going to keep control of the House of Representatives, and the Democrats have a larger majority in the Senate. And it will be for the president to forge a coalition that can deal with the terrible fiscal problems facing the nation. But don't forget, this is Barack Obama, who quite unnoticed passed the first health legislation in 70 years, who got a stimulus plan through in his early days, which has managed to forestall what was likely to be a huge economic collapse that he inherited from the Bush years. So I'm quite optimistic that between now and the seating of the new administration early in the year, we'll make some progress on a political deal to avoid a fiscal cliff. And then the kind of challenges you've raised for your audience about the future policies can be discussed from a more solid basis of consensus moving forward.
Sure. And we'll talk about the policies in relation to Africa in a minute. But Virginia, let me bring you in. What should we read out of the outcome? What are the voters in the U.S. saying? Are they saying they're happy with the progress that Mr. Barack Obama's administration has made in terms of trying to deal with the economic crisis?
Well, I think I would like to talk about the bigger picture here for just a bit.
Yeah.
I think the voters have demonstrated a deep split in American politics between people who are seeking to have government assist with problems like unemployment and home foreclosures and the mounting debt and the crumbling infrastructure and all the problems that the country faces rather desperately, and an extreme right wing which has become ideologically charged. And I'm afraid I have to disagree with John Stremlan, not on his analysis, but on his optimism that Barack Obama can overcome that. I think there is a great deal of racism in the United States, and it's becoming linked to a very simplistic, obstructionist right-wing agenda, which I'm afraid will be more charged with energy by this re-election of the president than by some new vision of fresh accord. I do think the Republicans are facing a real problem with that element. They are seeing that they're losing ground and losing seats to the stranglehold that section the Tea Party movement has on their party. But I don't think they're going to be very good at dealing with it, because in order to deal with it, they have to take on issues that they're not willing to take on, like the kind of Christianity that party, that wing promotes. Very simplistic ideological view of the country and of the world. So I'm afraid the president is going to have many of the same problems in the next 4 years that he had in the last 4 years, with a blockage coming from the House of Representatives and the Congress, and political stalemate deliberately orchestrated by these people.
So when it comes to the issue of the fiscal cliff, you expect exactly the same situation as back in 2011?
I'm not sure about the fiscal cliff. That involves politics in Washington that I'm not so sure about. They might actually find a way around that. But the country faces bigger problems. I mean, it's hard to imagine a bigger problem than the fiscal cliff, but in fact, there's a large structural problems with the United States. Education has withered on the vine. Most of the population is not trained or equipped or educated to deal with the new economy, the new economic demands that are coming in the next 20 years as China grows so rapidly. The foreign policy now has become so wound up with very high levels of of military spending and that's structurally linked to the way the government functions at this point. So even as the United States runs out of Middle East wars to wage, it is now doing what they call the pivot to the Pacific, where they'll find new ways to spend that money and further sapping the budget of the United States around these crucial social needs. And the agenda to correct all of that is blocked again by this idiocy about small government and the intrusion of the government on our lives and the specter of socialism and all these bugbear scare words that are being thrown around for that are ruining the chances of the very people who need it most to get what they need, the education, training, new infrastructure, internet, broadband, proper services, new linkages to the world. The country is just not equipped to make that move.
But you see, that's interesting.
So it's a very, very grim juncture for the U.S., and I think we're going to see a lot of problems over the next decade.
But it's very interesting that on the back of that grim juncture that you are pointing out, that you are painting, that the voter in America has gone back and re-elected President Barack Obama. Then what is the message that you think the voter is sending out there?
Well, that's the split. We see a split. We see a majority of the people, and a very narrow one, assisted by the Electoral College system, who see all of this and who recognize that Barack Obama is on their side with things like health care and education and services and infrastructure and the growth and health and welfare of the country, and they voted him in. But it takes more than a narrow majority to get things done in Washington. As John pointed out, the House of Representatives is in Republican hands, and if they continue this agenda of ruining the president's, efforts to correct these problems, they can, because Congress pays the bills. Congress has to pass these laws, and if Congress doesn't do it, it won't happen. So it's not. We do see it's just as with these wars that were waged. We saw a majority of Americans very strongly objecting to the invasion of Iraq, but it happened anyway. We have great dissatisfaction with the war in Afghanistan, but it's winding down far too slowly. There's problems here that one president can't overcome.
All right, yeah, because I think Dr. Stremlan, you want to come in? You want to say you're saying that Virginia Tilley is too pessimistic.
If this election had been lost, maybe I'd be sounding a slightly different tune. But there has not been a president who had to run with an unemployment rate as high as Barack Obama since Franklin Roosevelt 70 years ago, and somehow Barack Obama managed to put together a coalition to win 303 so far electoral votes over the 270 that he needed, and he did so by putting together support from, among others, and the irony of this is Virginia Tilley, of course, is a woman, and 12% favorable margin among women voters for Barack Obama because they knew he was more understanding of the challenges facing gender in this country. There are a majority of women in this country. I don't discount at all the division and the narrow division that exists.
That's interesting,
since the time of the Civil War.
Dr. Stremlan, you call the divisions narrow because some people are saying these are deep divisions in the U.S. These are fundamental divisions that we're seeing in the U.S.
Well, don't forget that this is a country that manages to get along with itself. We've just had a concession immediately by Mitt Romney after spending, $2 billion in his campaign, lying his way so that we thought it was completely irreconcilable. And lo and behold, there is this willingness to come together. You had Chris Christie, his keynote speaker at his convention, who was a fervent anti-Obamite until the Sandy hurricane came through New Jersey, and suddenly the federal government was of assistance. I can be a little cynical here at the same time, recognizing that Barack Obama was able to do what really none of the experts thought he could do, which was to get elected for a second term. For an African-American to get elected for 2 terms in the United States of America, given the conditions which Virginia Tilley outlined, which I don't ignore or discount, nevertheless suggests that there is a possibility to move this country forward. And that's, I think, what we're